As it happened, the Kukkamsu were the first to encounter humans. Being the Kukkamsu, their immediate response was to attack. This decision proved to be unwise. Our galaxy is vast, housing only a few sentient species capable of interstellar travel, including the foremost among them, the Amia. Unbeknownst to others, humans had been quietly establishing a modest dominion for themselves in a remote and unremarkable sector of the galaxy, nothing significant. Just a few dozen colonies near their home star. Importantly, humans were unaware of the Kukkamsu's existence or that of any other sentient species. One might assume, then, that a first encounter between the uncompromising Kukkamsu and the relatively naive humans would end disastrously for the latter. However, that was not the outcome. Now, listen closely, impatient fledgling, for this is both a history lesson and a valuable one. A Kukkamsu armed recon team stumbled upon a small human settlement on a planet designated for economic exploitation by their government, or what passes for it. The settlement was recent, erected a decade at most after the initial survey. The Kukkamsu, being uncompromising, found unexpected buildings and decided to incinerate them. It's likely they didn't realize these structures were made by and inhabited by sentient beings. Semi-telepathic species, like the Kukkamsu, who communicate through pheromones, often struggle with the theory of mind since they can directly share thoughts with their kind and thus rarely need to infer the intentions of others. I digress. The attempt to burn the human settlement didn't proceed as planned. Fortuitously for scholars, the Kukkamsu recon team had helmet-mounted recording equipment that uploaded footage to their ship's black box in real time. This, along with human testimonies, provides us with a fairly reliable account of the events. The recon team leader approached the first building and, ignoring the unidentified creature's humans fleeing from it, began to set it ablaze with his arm-mounted flamer, quickly consuming it. The next building was larger. Amazing reflexes? The records merely hint at their identity, yet their impact is undeniable. The Kukkamsu, while massive creatures, typically stand just under 2 meters tall but can rear up to a towering height when using their 4 hind legs. They possess a total of 6 limbs, with the front 2 pairs serving dual functions as legs or arms depending on the need. At their full height, when reared up, they are even more imposing. This particular recon team leader, an avatar of destruction among his 19 comrades, had been efficiently tearing through the human settlement, largely ignoring the actual humans, until he spotted a vehicle attempting to escape. After crippling it with a precise laser shot, he approached, intending to finish off the occupants with his flamer. Inside the vehicle, he discovered a typical human family, a male, a female, and 2 juveniles huddled and terrified in the wreckage. The moment of hesitation he showed, perhaps a brief flicker of curiosity or confusion, was all it took for his fate to turn. Just as he raised his flamer to resume his grim task, he found himself suddenly disarmed in the most literal sense. His flamer and the arm wielding it were gone, severed. The shock was immediate, his keening screech filling the air as he backed away. Standing between him and the human family, next to his severed limb, was another human, clad in a fully encasing armored suit. This human had stealthily approached and disarmed the Kukkamsu commander without detection, wielding a large kinetic pistol and, remarkably, an actual sword. Staring in astonishment and swiftly going into shock, the commander realized he still had one functioning weapon, a combine laser mounted on his remaining arm. He aimed and fired at the human, who simply sidestepped the beam with astonishing agility. It wasn't a dodge in the traditional sense, rather. The human had predicted the trajectory of the laser and moved accordingly. The human's reaction time was so swift that the commander, continuing to fire, could not land a hit. The last recorded footage from the helmet cam captured only a blur of movement as the mysterious human swiftly maneuvered beneath the commander, who would soon become the first casualty of the human Kukkamsu conflict. Thus, the story of this encounter hints at the unexpected prowess and tactical genius of humans, who, despite their technological and experiential disadvantages, proved formidable adversaries to the more physically imposing Kukkamsu, more predisposed towards cooperation than conflict. However, humans differ significantly in this respect, which might be attributed to their carnivorous, hunter-gatherer past. Their evolutionary trajectory has perhaps shaped them into a species that views competition and dominance as crucial survival strategies, reflecting in their proclivity for warfare. Now, back to the human scout, and the Kukkamsu encounter the scout. Equipped with a sword featuring a monomolecular electrostatically bonded edge, represents a fascinating blend of ancient martial tradition and cutting-edge technology. This sword, capable of silently slicing through almost any material, epitomizes the human stealth strategy. Coupled with their active camouflage armor, it allowed the scout to approach the Kukamsu recon team leader undetected, leading to a swift and decisive ambush. The effectiveness of the human scouts, despite their light armaments, against the more heavily armed Kukamsu underscores a critical aspect of human warfare: the strategic use of technology and surprise. Although the Kukamsu were theoretically better equipped for a confrontation, their preparations were aimed at threats akin to dangerous wildlife, not cunning, technologically adept adversaries. After the skirmish, with most of their team incapacitated and only 3 members able to retreat, the Kukamsu were left in no condition to retaliate. Their shock and the rapid depletion of their numbers rendered them incapable of managing complex operations like orbital bombardment. Consequently, they hastily retreated to their territory, a move driven by necessity and the primal instinct to survive after a devastating defeat. This incident not only highlights the dynamics of interstellar conflict, but also illustrates the unique and often bewildering nature of human interspecies violence. Unlike most species, which might engage in ritualistic or symbolic displays of strength to avoid actual conflict, humans frequently resort to lethal force, reflecting a deep-seated acceptance of violence as a tool for resolving disputes, securing resources, and even internal power struggles within their own factions. This propensity for organized, large-scale conflict is indeed rare among sentient species, marking humanity as an exceptional and sometimes unnerving presence in the cosmos. Involve the development and refinement of combat techniques and strategies. This is not merely a matter of physical combat, but also extends to strategic and tactical planning, both in terms of individual survival and in the broader context of organized military endeavors. Human history is replete with examples of innovation driven by the need to gain an upper hand in conflicts, whether through the development of new weapons, the formulation of complex battle strategies, or the construction of fortified defenses. This continuous evolution of combat and defense mechanisms in human societies isn't just about survival, it's about dominance and control, which are integral aspects of human societal development. In many ways, this has spurred advancements in technology and governance, as each new method of warfare necessitated corresponding advances in logistics, communication, and management. Moreover, the prevalence of violence in human media reflects this ingrained aspect of their culture. Films, literature, and games often explore themes of conflict, showcasing both the heroism and horror of combat. This not only serves as entertainment but also as a form of collective memory and instruction, perpetuating the norms of competition and vigilance. In contrast, for species like the Amia and the Kukamsu, their evolutionary responses are more about avoidance and minimal direct conflict. The Amia, for example, are inclined to hide, a behavior rooted in their ancestral need to evade predators like the Gia hawks. This instinctive reaction is not geared towards confrontation but towards evasion and concealment. Similarly, the Kukamsu, despite their formidable appearance, would prefer to intimidate rather than engage directly in combat. Their instinct to rear up to appear larger is a deterrent tactic, not an aggressive one, aligned with the survival strategy against natural predators on their home planet. The human propensity for direct and organized conflict is thus unique and marks them as an outlier among sentient species. This trait makes humans exceptionally dangerous, not just to each other but to any species that might come into conflict with them. Their history of intraspecies predation has cultivated a race that is exceptionally adept at both initiating and defending against violence, making them an unprecedented force in the galaxy. This dual nature of threat and defender in their own narratives and interactions is a profound aspect of their identity, one that other species find difficult to comprehend or anticipate. Engage them in their nesting grounds, particularly when their young are present. This protective instinct, deeply ingrained, can trigger the most ferocious responses, transcending even the trained disciplines of their military or combat castes like the knights and samurai you mentioned. Understanding this aspect is crucial if one hopes to interact safely with humans or navigate their complex societal structures. Humans have an innate drive to protect their offspring, a trait common to many species, but intensely potent in humans due to their intricate social and familial bonds. This protective drive is often what precipitates the most extreme human responses in both war and peace. It's a cornerstone of their ethical codes in warfare, which, despite their capacity for violence, includes numerous rules and norms designed to mitigate unnecessary suffering and preserve the integrity of non-combatants. Moreover, These rules of war illustrate another unique aspect of human conflict, the concept of honor and fairness in battle. Despite their evolutionary backdrop of relentless interspecies predation, humans have developed a sophisticated framework of martial ethics that often includes honoring surrendered foes and protecting those who cannot defend themselves, such as civilians and especially children. The scenario you've described, where human scouts intervene to protect a settlement, including their own potential adversaries, underscores a critical point: human warfare, while brutal, is not devoid of strategic thinking or ethical considerations. Their actions likely reflected a calculated decision to maintain the integrity of the settlement for future strategic use, or even from a moral standpoint, reflecting a reluctance to allow harm to come to non-combatants, consistent with their broader military ethos. In any interaction with humans, it is vital to understand that their reactions, while complex, are deeply influenced by a mix of instinctual protectiveness, ethical training, and strategic calculation. This combination can make them unpredictable and incredibly dangerous, but also capable of acts of surprising compassion and strict adherence to their own codes of conduct. So if you ever find yourself in a situation where you must engage with humans, especially in contexts that might involve conflict, always strive to understand not just their strategic interests, but also the ethical frameworks that guide their actions. This understanding could be crucial in navigating potential conflicts, ensuring not just survival but also fostering mutual respect and cooperation. This anecdote provides a fascinating glimpse into the nature of human adaptability and strategic thinking, even when confronted with unknown and potentially superior forces. The story illustrates several key aspects of human behavior and strategic culture that are instructive not just for understanding their military prowess, but also their broader approach to conflict and cooperation. 1. Adaptability and unity in the face of external threats. The incident with the Kukamsu highlights how humans can rapidly unify against a common external threat despite internal conflicts. This adaptability is not just a military response but reflects a deeper sociopolitical capability to prioritize larger existential threats over internal divisions when necessary. 2. Technological ingenuity and tactical sophistication. Despite having less technologically advanced ships, humans leverage their experience in space combat, developed through internal conflicts, to outmaneuver a technologically superior enemy. This emphasizes the human capacity to use existing resources and strategic ingenuity to compensate for technological or numerical disadvantages. 3. Diplomacy and curiosity. Following the initial violent encounters, the narrative mentions that humans were ready to engage in dialogue and cease hostilities once they recognized the Kukamsu as sentient beings. This shift from confrontation to diplomacy underscores a fundamental aspect of human nature: curiosity about and willingness to engage with the unknown. It also reflects a pragmatic aspect of human conflict resolution: the readiness to transition from war to peace once mutual understanding is achieved. 4. Ethical considerations in warfare. The human rules of engagement, which include protections for non-combatants and a reluctance to harm surrendered enemies, illustrate a complex layer of ethical consideration that governs human warfare. This not only shapes how humans conduct war but also how they are perceived by other species, influencing diplomatic and cultural exchanges. 5. Cultural exchange and global influence. Post-conflict, humans did not isolate themselves or solely focus on their own advancement. Instead, they engaged in cultural exchanges, spreading across the galaxy to learn from and interact with other species. This openness to learning and sharing knowledge highlights a critical element of human expansion. It is not solely driven by conquest but also by an insatiable curiosity and a desire to integrate into a larger community. The takeaway from this narrative extends beyond the military or strategic domains. It provides a comprehensive view of human capabilities and tendencies that can be crucial for any species or entities interacting with humans. Whether for purposes of conflict, diplomacy, or cultural exchange, understanding these facets of human nature can significantly influence outcomes in interspecies relations.